Panago Pizza presents SCP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wilde.
This is the show that was never going to start. Never, ever going to start.
Never.
We had an adventure coming in.
It was so fun.
I made an assumption, and it was a bad assumption, I think. But I thought it was a good assumption, and I will tell you why it was a good assumption at the time. When I announced on Tuesday that I was leaving, at the time, they were like, well, I said, can I come in, still record the podcast? Jesse and Steve still work here, whatever. And they're like, well, yeah, of course. Of course, no problem. I'm like, pass card will still work? Yeah, pass card still work, no problem. So we get to the underground parking garage and find that we can't get up. And it's funny because I could still log into the computers here, but I cannot actually get in here. So we actually had to be visitor signed in, which was interesting. That was the first time for me.
It's weird that happened to you. You couldn't have seen that coming at all. It's weird that they were almost waiting. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Click, he doesn't work here anymore. Click, revoke privileges.
Well, when I had to call Jesse and be like, hey man, can you let us in? He was like, when I said, I'm like, my card strangely doesn't work anymore. He's like, well, you don't work here anymore.
I just think it's funny that you think you can get into a place that you quit.
Well, I mean, okay.
No, he was fired. He was fired.
I was fired.
That's my new favorite thing.
Is that a rumor?
It's not about you're getting Kevin Frankich's job or you're getting a job at Chum. People go, I gotta know. Did he actually quit?
Do people do that?
Oh yeah.
Really?
I've gotten it like half a dozen times.
Well, if I'd actually quit, they wouldn't have let me put out that statement though. They'd have been like, no. Actually, no.
But did you actually quit, Adam?
I did.
Clear the air.
Well, yeah, I did.
Oh.
It's funny.
Are you allowed to be talking about any of this?
Yeah. I mean, I put it up.
What are you going to do, fire him?
Excuse me. We're going to hire you and fire you again to prove a point. No, I think of course I can talk about it. Why not? Why not?
How good are you?
I mean, there's parts
games?
of the story you guys can't know, but that'll come out in the book one year. One day. I'll have a book one day.
Is Adam writing a book?
I'll write a book one day.
Barf. Barf.
Which will be the title of your book.
Hey, my book is going to be How I Didn't Read Stephen Adams' Books.
Wow.
Barf, My Life with Adam and Steve.
The front page, no words, no title, doesn't even say the author. It'll just be you, double peace sign near your face. That's it. No smile.
The book is just emojis.
I would read that.
Yeah, right. So as of right now, John Tavares is on a plane to Toronto to make a decision.
Can I propose something?
You can propose anything. You're a member of the show.
Can we only talk about John Tavares today?
No, there's other stuff.
That's all I want to talk about.
No,
Well, I mean,
Jesse's right. We need to talk about the things people won't talk about. We need to be brave and talk about the subjects that people are ignoring, like John Tavares and the Leafs and their relation to one another. Why
Tackle the tough issues.
Why isn't anyone talking about it?
It's true.
I
It's
need
a
to
good
know.
point. It's a good point. I mean, fair enough. Should we mention that Leafs hired a guy named Wes Clark, noted friend of John Tavares?
I'll allow it. It's related. It's related. I'll allow it. And it involves the Leafs.
Do you want to read what Wes Clark or John Tavares wrote about Wes Clark?
Oh, I want to. Okay, is that in the notes you sent me?
Oh, you don't have it?
No.
I'll pull it up.
Okay, you read that out because I know you sent me some notes.
Wes Clark is a guy who used to work for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds.
So he's
As
good friends
you
with
know-
Duke.
2011 to 2012, he was the director of player development for the Sioux.
Yeah. Back when the Leafs junior farm team was the London Knights. It's the Greyhounds now.
Right.
That's their team. That's how that works.
Anybody who doesn't know, they were not actually
Yeah.
their junior team. They were just affiliated because Dubas was there.
The official junior team.
Mr. Hunter owned it.
Official junior team. That's how it worked.
Thank you,
Anyways.
Rasmus Sandin. Anyway.
I don't know when John Tavares wrote this, but on the Athlete Training Center website, where Wes Clark worked, John Tavares wrote, I first met Wes when I started training with his father, Richard, and at the time, I looked up to him because of his work ethic and dedication on the ice. But now, as I've gotten older, he's become a great friend of mine and has helped me push myself to new limits. I always ask him for advice and respect his opinions. Wes has been a mentor for me on and off the ice and has always been there when I needed his time and effort. And this man, Wes Clark, now works for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he used to work here. He used to work in Toronto for the Leafs, and so he's been rehired technically.
Oh,
yeah, he worked here back in 2014, I believe.
When Dubas was at the helm? Or maybe he was let go right before Dubas came on board?
Yeah, I think it was before Dubas, and then he worked for Florida, and that's where Toronto hired him from today.
Very interesting. Yeah, there's been a lot of front office movement.
There has. Jacques Lemaire's out. A few other people, but it's not John Tavares related. Let's talk about
You're
this.
right. You're right.
That's awesome.
Adam with the take.
Right?
Adam with the take.
Right?
2 hours of John Tavares.
Yes.
So, from The Athletic, John Tavares flew home
The S
to
in
Toronto.
Tavares is a 2. We're too spect. We're too packed. Sorry. Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
John, where? So you're putting it at the end?
You got it.
I don't think that works.
I don't think it works
It's
either.
not Jeter-esque.
No.
Okay. So like the V's got to be a 2 then.
Why a 2? Why is John Tavares 2 anything?
We're too packed, Jesse.
Adam,
I don't know.
Can I read this thing about hockey?
No.
Or do we want to keep focusing on what we're on?
You know what? I'll retupect your time.
Thank you. From The Athletic, John Tavares flew home to Toronto on Thursday, which meant there was no second face-to-face meeting with the Islanders in Los Angeles, which you have to imagine. Lou Lamoriello, they probably would have been like, Lou, we're going to give you one meeting. And he was probably like, cool, I'll see you a couple times. No, Lou, we're going to give you one meeting. No, that's cool. I'll see you at the second meeting.
Yeah.
And I bet that's why this sentence is in there, because the Islanders probably said, we're going to get a damn second meeting with him. And they didn't get it. Now, there's probably nothing to read into that, and that's what the piece says.
Adam, I think we're here to read into things.
Let's read into everything.
I think this is our job.
No, I'm with Adam. Let's just move on.
It
means nothing.
I think. What do you think the Islanders meeting comprised of? Because like he's been there for his entire career. What's he going to learn other than what Lou Lamoriello has to tell him? Lou Lamoriello just got there. Was it just 3 hours of him cracking his knuckles menacingly? Just like sharpening a knife?
John, we're not sure if you're going to be captain or if you'll get the number 91 back, but you should stay in New York.
Wow.
Also, trim your hair.
Yeah, I was about to
Trim your
say,
face hair.
Don't know if you're going to be captain or have 91, but one thing is for sure.
You will be
Shave.
clean shaven. Yeah. Apparently, there's nothing to read into that. I think there is something to read into that, but it appears.
Nope.
Okay.
It appears only that Tavares is ready to wrap up his process by either signing with the Islanders before Saturday at midnight or heading into the great unknown on Sunday at noon. Now, in fact, the Islanders will almost certainly know by Friday whether Tavares is staying for 8 years and somewhere between $92 and $100 million. That sort of contract takes some time to finalize. So, with the midnight deadline on Saturday looming, after that, Tavares is considered an unrestricted free agent and cannot get the 8th year from the Isles anymore. That's important.
92 divided by 8, by the way, is $11.5 million.
Tavares and his camp will let Lou Lamoriello know on Friday whether to start the contract process or say goodbye after 9 seasons. Tavares was reportedly impressed by thorough pitches from all 6 teams. It's believed that should Tavares walk away from the Isles, it's going to be the Sharks and Leafs at number 1 and number 2. And notice they put the Sharks first. San Jose has some quiet surroundings, just like Long Island, and a bevy of veterans. And a strong goaltender in a situation that is far away from the island. And that might be the thing that's interesting to him.
Man, win a cup in Toronto. Hockey needs to stop being so boring. Come home and write a crazy story, John. Oh, it'll be so fun.
Can you put HQ down? Can you not have
I didn't
HQ?
mean to open that. That was an accident.
Yeah.
That was a legit an accident.
I opened it.
Oh, you did? I was wondering. I was like, I must have pocket. You're a dick.
That's awesome. Okay. So Lou doesn't get his second meeting. What's interesting about this is we didn't even know there was supposed to be a second meeting, but because this sentence was written, Lou asked for a second meeting. So now the question is, if you're Lou Lamoriello, who doesn't sweat at all? I'm sure he doesn't have to put on deodorant because he doesn't sweat. But you might be sweating this a little bit, right?
No.
Still put on deodorant.
Also,
I mean, he probably does. But, he probably doesn't have to.
Lou, just intimidates body odor, into not happening. He doesn't stink out of pure intimidation. Like he just
He
looks
finds
at
a way around body odor like he did with Stefan Robida's contract.
he just gives his armpits a look in the mirror, and they're like, "Yeah, you got it, boss." And the hairs like shrivel up and retreat.
So, what do we think? What do we think of that one piece alone?
That one sentence.
That one
in
sentence.
particular?
That's the important sentence in that piece.
Here's where I am with those three teams. Okay, Tavares goes to the Sharks. That's a cup contender.
Absolutely. That's a great
They're a
team.
cup contender now, I think.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree.
Exactly right. Tavares goes to the Leafs. I think they're a cup contender. They're certainly strong. Maybe make one more move on defense. Pff, come on. JT goes to the Islanders. They're the same as they were last year, which was not good enough for the playoffs. JT, this is easy, buddy. The hardest part is deciding between San Jose and Toronto.
Well, you're also deciding between money and not more money. You know, if you go to San Jose, taxes are lower, and you're also getting a lower contract than what you would have gotten in the Island in less years. Or if you go to Island, you get more years and more money. You go to Toronto, you pay more taxes, and you get less money.
However, there is there's a great piece in The Athletic, and I will not pretend to explain it, but the San Jose and Toronto taxes are not dissimilar. As in, you would think that California taxes would be much less, and they're not. So I don't know specifically how it works, but there are tax benefits if you put your money in the right places for players playing in Canada. That's how they get around it. So apparently the tax burden isn't as bad as we thought it might be.
And you're also not in the biggest media hockey market in the universe with all of the pressure in the universe on your shoulders.
Right. Now, I got a question about that. When we talk about big game players, when we talk about guys that really and truly, like the guys that they're like, that's the guy I want in the trenches with me. That guy's a winner. That guy's a winner. I question how anybody can be that and still be and be thrown off by the media.
I just don't want to be bothered.
I don't. That's a guy that loves to play under pressure, but he won't play in Toronto. I really question that
I think
narrative.
you should ask every hockey player ever.
No, and you know what was really interesting is when I saw the Penguins play the Sharks in the Stanley Cup final a couple of years ago, no one was there.
There were no reporters.
I think
No one
it's
was there.
about-
No one covered it.
I think it's about the ability to you can go to a restaurant and if you call ahead and you say I'm the captain of the San Jose Sharks, you'll get anything you want. But if you go to the restaurant, nobody will probably notice you. In Toronto, you can't walk around.
You can't
Yeah,
walk
you
around in
can.
certain places, but dude, I've been in restaurants in
With
Yorkville.
Austin Matthews.
Absolutely,
And no one's come up
They
to
cordon it off. Trust me. Trust me.
You won't have to. Do you think Steven Stamkos has to corner off a restaurant in the middle of Tampa?
If John Tavares is in
Maybe.
a restaurant in San Jose and he's not getting bugged by little kids asking for his autograph, he's not doing his job. He should
I
be
think
the
he's
type
just-
of player that electrifies that town. If they win a cup there, he's good. They're going to know
Sure.
who John Tavares is. If he's
Like
a great
Stammer's pretty big in Tampa.
surely the locals know who Brent Burns is. I would be
Joe
distracted
Thornton.
by him anyway because he looks like a Yeti.
In New
Joe
York,
Thornton.
rank the sports teams and tell me where the Islanders come.
Oh, I mean, they're under the Mets, man. They're far. They'd be like,
They're
I don't
not
know.
even the most popular blue and orange team.
Yeah,
in New York.
is there are they better than the Jets? No, I don't even think they're bigger than the
No.
Jets. Like, no.
No.
But that's fine.
So
But do you
it's
wanna
a much comfier life.
Sure. But is that what we're after?
Not in Toronto. I'm not saying I want him in Toronto yesterday. But I'm saying from his mindset, there's another side to
Do
it
we
that
know
you gotta
that's his
think about.
mindset, though?
No.
I don't know. I'm just saying if he doesn't want that attention, there's a reason to avoid Toronto.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I agree 100%. The problem I have with that narrative, and Brian Burke, of course, went on Sportsnet. I hope one day we get him on this show, by the way.
Sure.
But he went, yeah, we can send an email. He works here. That's funny. I used to be
Jesse,
Brian Burke's coworker.
You send an email. You're the only one of us who has one anymore.
Yeah.
It's true.
I used to be Brian Burke's coworker until 2 days ago.
Yeah. I'm his contract coworker.
He, of course, got on and said, Toronto's a terrible place to play. Ask Phil Kessel.
Yeah, let's definitely go on Brian Burke's experience with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And I also want to say, let's go on Phil Kessel's experience with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, Brian Burke's diverse experience of very, very bad, and within arm's reach of the playoffs. Yeah, let's definitely go on that. Come on, Brian. Like, I'll take his opinion on anything, but like, he doesn't know what it's like
to win here,
to be the general manager of a successful Toronto Maple Leafs team. He does not. He doesn't. He can't speak on that experience. When I heard him talk about, hey, when things are going great, life is great. When you were here, did that ever happen?
we had a 3-game winning streak one time.
Oh, and that time they were hot and then collapsed in like 11-12?
JVR.
That was great. That was the first collapse.
JVR, Kessel, and Kadri were once, or Kessel and Bozak were once the best line in hockey. That was a good time.
No, it was JVR,
Bozak and
Kessel,
Kessel.
Bozak.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because
Best line in hockey? Did they say that?
for like a month.
No, they had
for
the
a
best
month.
second line in hockey, which
Yes.
is, looking back, one of the saddest things that we've ever said. It was Grabowski centering MacArthur and Kuhlman, and they were actually sick.
There was a time when it was nice here.
There
For a
was a
month.
time
It was like
where
a January.
they were where the Brian Burke Maple Leafs were adequate. Absolutely.
So he knows for a couple weeks.
Totally. So that is what they would call in the analytics community a small sample size.
That's fair.
And listen, sure, he's a great guy.
How
Success, he's got a cup. But to talk about the good and the bad in Toronto, he simply cannot.
He can
How
talk
would-
about the bad, though.
You can talk about, buddy, we can all talk about the bad. We're Leafs fans.
How
We
would-
don't need you to tell us how shitty it is here when the Leafs are losing. We know.
How would Stephen Birch refute your small sample size?
5 years of the GM is not a small sample size.
Jesse, how much time do we have? How are we possibly going to make this entire show about John Tavares? We're already off track talking about Brian Burke. Mm-hmm. This 2-hour John Tavares,
So,
with respect.
I guess I just
Fun.
find it strange. I find it very funny that John Tavares could go to the Olympics, that John Tavares could grow up in this city and be a phenom from the age of what, 12?
That's 5, Canada 5! Remember when he was a screaming lunatic? Because he represented Canada in front of the entire world and they won gold? Ah! Yeah, he looked like he was really shy of all the attention.
Yeah, I think that maybe that narrative, and I don't. I'm not saying, Jesse, it's your narrative, but it's a narrative.
Yeah.
I think that narrative's overblown with him. I really do. I mean, there
it's
might be some
overblown
guys
with most
who,
players, man.
I do too.
Was it overblown with Steven Stamkos?
Well, from what we're understanding, it was again, everybody keeps alluding to some sort of meeting that went down, and they brought, first off, the Leafs stank. So I
Yeah.
guess the Leafs brought in too many CEOs to sell him on the other stuff, and he was like, well, it's not enough focus on hockey. Well, the Leafs stank. So they tried to sell him on something else, apparently.
What year was
Money
that?
and money
That was
and money.
2 years ago? 2 summers ago? No,
I
pre-Austin
know.
Matthews, right?
A lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But it sounded to me more like a pitch to get him to be like an extra in commercials. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
buddy, you're going to come here and probably be the captain of the hockey team. Like, stop talking to me about Canadian Tire.
Yeah,
And
which
stuff
is
like
understandable.
That should be part of the presentation. It shouldn't be the crux of it. Are you going to win a cup or not? Are you going to give me some players to play with or not? And at the time, it was 50-50. We didn't know.
bunch of who knows.
We did not know.
Now, he made the right decision, but Tampa
Yep.
was in a position back then where hadn't they just come off a Stanley Cup Finals appearance? Like, hadn't
in
it- was it-
2015.
So and then the next year did. I mean, I don't remember how they did.
Missed the playoffs.
Did they miss playoffs that
They
year?
did. Oh, that was the year the Leafs made it. I think. No,
No.
it wasn't. I'm getting mixed up.
List
They
of
didn't do
Tampa
as
Bay
well.
Lightning seasons.
Let's find out.
2017, 2018. This last season. Do you see what I did there?
I do.
This last season,
I'm choosing to ignore it.
they lost in the conference finals. The
5
year
wins away
before,
from the cup.
16-17, they did not qualify for the playoffs.
Right, and that going into
should've.
that season, that was the season the Leafs tried to sign him.
Yeah, and they fully would have.
So coming out of that season, the 15-16 season, they lost in the conference finals to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
And before
7
that, they
games.
lost in the finals.
In the year before that, 14-15, they lost to the Chicago Blackhawks.
In the
So,
Stanley Cup.
so tell
Stanley
me,
Cup.
tell me,
except for that injury riddled crater,
They're always in the conference
Stanley Cup
finals.
final, conference final. That's crazy. They're a good team, man. I don't blame Stamkos for that decision.
I mean, but the thing is, people, and I get why Islanders fans are so pissed off right now, because this is their guy. And he has always been their guy. And Islanders fans are saying, people are making it seem like it's terrible here on the island.
No, it's better here.
And here's the thing. The problem is the Islanders' window to win, besides the fact that they're now going to play 22 games at the old Coliseum.
Their window to win is what?
Their window to win isn't. That's the point. It's not within sight yet. Now, if they have a goal, they scored some of the most goals in the league. If they had a goalie, if they had some defense, great. But the problem is that he is, 28? 29?
I think he's 27 going on 28. He'll be 28 early next
for
season.
him, the next 4 years are crucial because those are going to be supposedly
sweet spot.
This is the sweet spot. This is the time to win. Mm-hmm. The Islanders may not be there for another couple years, at least. And who knows if they get there.
Just say, and they might.
Oh, I for sure think they will.
They might with him. They might. With the Leafs, they will. There's no might. There's no might. You go in with the Marlies' 6 defensemen, you make the playoffs.
Absolutely.
And you're not doing that, so you're fine. Don't worry about I don't know. The Sharks said that's tempting.
Absolutely.
That's very tempting.
How could it not be?
The problem
is that with the Sharks is at the end of that. Because you've got Vlasic on a ridiculous deal, Burns on a ridiculous deal, Logan Couture is going to get one. Maybe. No, he's for sure going to get one. They're waiting on Tavares here, but
right.
they've already talked. I think they've agreed to a number already. I am a fan of the people that Doug Wilson locks up. I'm not a fan of the 30, Mark Edward Vlasic getting an 8-year deal when he was 32.
Yeah, and again, all great players, but it's the contract. Now, one thing I'll say about Tavares, so I was reading in the car before, while I was waiting for you there, Mr. I don't work here anymore, Mr. Stick of Truth. I think it was LeBrun who said Tavares could start letting teams know that they didn't make it tomorrow.
As of tomorrow.
Now, it'd be in his best interest, I would think, and certainly all the other teams, if he let them know as soon as possible, long before July 1st. Because you're a giant chunk of that team's time and effort and cap and the plans.
Is that his problem?
It absolutely is his problem. So if he goes to a team, that dramatically alters their plans.
Oh, so tell the team that you're going to, hey, you guys are the guys.
Yeah.
Get your other plans in motion.
Tell the teams.
Tell the other teams. No.
Oh, no. Who cares about them?
No. No. Yeah, you're right.
Courtesy
I
will
agree.
probably do that. But for the Leafs, for example, they probably have all kinds of contingency plans for if they don't get them. That's just being smart. But if they are going to get them, he probably shouldn't spring it on them, because they got to plan around that. They got to do some other things. And if he waits, maybe he's holding that up. For the Sharks, too, it sounds like he's already holding that up. Who knows where William Nylander's extension fits into all this? That's making me a little nervous. Boy, he is traded all the time.
No, there's just one network that wants to trade him.
Yeah,
No.
really badly.
There's 2 major sports networks in Canada. One of them continues to try to trade William Nylander, and nobody knows why, because the Leafs are like, no, we're not.
It's like that South Park episode, we have crab people. We have crab people. Just saying, we have crab. Man, what are we talking about today? We have trade Nylander. I'm just saying, we have Ritupek Tavares. And we have Nylander.
I don't get it.
Kyle Dubas is not trading William Nylander. Shut up.
No, he's not. And as we said last episode, to anybody who thinks that that they can't afford him, they can afford him.
They can afford him.
They can afford them all. And don't worry about the all-star defenseman that you want so desperately. It really doesn't matter all that much.
And if Tampa friggin' thinks they can afford him,
well,
I'm sure
yeah.
the Leafs could make it work.
So
Sharks too.
I wonder this. If he tells the Islanders yes, will we know? Because if I'm Lou Lamoriello, there's a couple things I do. First off, I don't tell anyone because I'm Lou Lamoriello. Number 2, I tell him to keep his mouth shut with the other teams to delay them for a competitive advantage.
Oh, no, he's going to let them know.
It'll leak out.
This is hockey. Come on. They're going to let them know.
It's Lou Lamoriello, though.
And also, I don't think it's a smart move to, midnight comes July 1st and you go, I don't know what he's thinking. Like at that point, you're going to have to kind of bite the bullet and just go forward with other plans. Because what happens if this guy doesn't let you know and you miss out on everyone else? So you don't even get your plan B. You got to go to plan C. I was about to say Derek Ryan, but he's going to go to Calgary. So like you're going to go to D, E, F. No, he's going to let them know soon. Honestly,
that's why tomorrow's the day.
When are you uploading this episode?
Tonight?
That's when we're going to know. That's when we're going to know.
It's tomorrow. Tomorrow's the day.
For most
according
people.
to The Athletic. And
I'd like to know what percentage of our audience listens to this show before we learn about Tavares.
I'd say a large chunk.
I say 30.
Because most of the audience loves to stay up and listen and write on the YouTube comments.
Yeah. Can we talk about that epidemic of people who go, oh, Jesse! Now I gotta stay up till 4!
It's literally
No, you don't! It doesn't
dozens of comments.
This isn't a Snapchat photo. It'll be there, man.
And they're saying, no!
What are you doing to yourself? Go to bed.
It's up.
I'm going to lose my place in line.
I bet.
Like, I get people going, man, I have an exam tomorrow. I'm like, man, your life is at stake. Don't listen to the show right now. Study. What are you doing? Oh, man, I got work in the... You're going to get fired! I thought you were trying to save up for a ring or a house or something. What are you doing? Save yourself. No, that's what coffee's for, man. No! Take it from me, a grizzled vet. You'll burn out. Don't let that flame burn out.
You'll burn out like your friend Adam.
Yeah. Where you just go, I quit. We were talking to... He's like, I'm gonna Twitch Fortnite. And I'm like, that was a cry for help from my friend. This is actually your intervention. The whole Tavares talk was
it's an intervention.
A ruse. Dear Adam, these are all the ways that you're quitting your job has hurt me. Number 1, I don't get a parking spot anymore. Number 2,
I can't get in the building anymore. Jesse?
I met Lars at a Marlies game. He's a podcast listener. And he is a real life example of I have to stay up and watch it. And I asked him why, and he said, because it's up. And he's from, I believe, Sweden. And he was in town just to...
Switzerland, I think.
Switzerland, was
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said, whenever it's up, I have to watch it. So shout out Lars. He's one of those people.
Yeah, and in Switzerland, that's like noon, so that's fine.
It's kind of, it's a better time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Actually, yesterday, I was at the Ottawa Center in Oshawa, because I live there. And this guy honks at me in the parking lot.
To go visit a garbage can that you can walk inside of and buy things in.
Wow. You know what? That's actually a very Liberty Village thing. We repurposed this dumpster and we turned it into a Lacoste.
That's true.
And now you can get
That's very good.
Alligator shirts. No, so this guy honked at me in the parking lot.
Alligator shirts.
And he pulled over and I'm like, I don't know why. My instincts were just like, just give me a fight. I don't know.
Take off my buddy.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. And he just shouts out the window. He goes, I'm listening to you right now. And it was your voice, Jesse.
My voice.
It was your voice.
He was listening to me.
I mean, it was technically our show, but he was just listening to you. My mic didn't work last episode, so I guess all he could listen to was you and Adam.
It worked kind of.
Yeah, people were complaining that I moved the mic too much. Is that annoying everybody?
Do people complain?
No.
Okay, just checking. Adam.
I don't know what other things we could
John
say
Tavares.
about John Tavares. Honestly, I don't.
He has brown hair.
What are the lines going to look like when he signs?
What are the lines going to look like?
Who cares? That is interesting because remember when Marlowe signed and everyone was like, man, the easiest thing to pitch Marlowe on is you'll get to play with Austin Matthews. No, he did not. He played with Matthews on the second power play unit some of the time. And in terms of 5-on-5 line mate, I mean, sometimes after a penalty kill, like that was it. And it turned out great. They both had great seasons. Matthews scored 32 goals despite missing 20 games. Marlowe scored 27, just like he did the season before. So where does Tavares play? I mean, dude, I don't know if there's a combination you can go wrong with on the Leafs. I really don't.
Well, and I mean, at this point, you just try him with whoever. I'd love to
Fiddle
see.
around. Oh, poor you.
Well, I think you're looking at your line drivers, right? And
I'm just tortured over this, guys. I don't know what to do.
John Tavares drives the line. Austin Matthews drives the line.
Marner drives the line.
Mitch Marner drives the line. Those are your 3 stars on each line, your first 3 lines. And I know
you
that.
separate them.
I mean, yeah, because
I
then
don't know
you've got also remember you got Kadri. Remember you've got Nylander. Remember you've got
I want to see
Janssen.
Mark Admar again.
I'd love to see.
See, that's interesting because Marner really struggled with JVR Bozak, and then they put him with Kadri Marleau,
And it was awesome.
and it was awesome. And it looked like Marner was driving that line, but he wasn't really experiencing much success until he got there. Then again, one night he made what was it, Martin and Moore look like
All stars.
all-stars. Unbelievable. Martin had a 3-assist night or something one night. It was amazing. It was amazing.
But that should be your third line, right?
Which?
Third line. Mark Admar.
It's a third of the lines, is what I would say.
Yeah, it's one of them.
It's your checking line.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
send it out there
Grinders.
when you need big bodies.
It's funny. Some people tweeted me I don't know, just put Matthews on the wing. And that's a ridiculous suggestion, but sure, why not? Every now and then for fun. Literally for fun. Yo, imagine that. Imagine Matthews. I can't even say it. Matthews on the left, Tavares in the middle, and Marner on the right.
No.
Imagine.
You're right. It's Kadri.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, I'm not too worried about it. And also they can sign guys, they can trade guys. Did we seriously just have that conversation without mentioning William Nylander? We did.
I mentioned him.
Oh, you did?
I did.
I wasn't listening.
I said you have
I'm sorry.
Nylander.
Well, there you go.
Who's
And he
the captain?
can drive a line, I think.
Who's the captain? Here's what I would suggest, and
Who cares?
I don't understand. I don't know. From what I've read about John Tavares and what it's all about, it's not about the money, because if it was about the money, he'd have signed with the Islanders, right? Because they can give him the extra year. They can give him the most money. There's no question, right?
Sure.
It seems to be about lifestyle, and it seems to be about ability to win. And so...
Dude, you're rich.
In those 2 cases, I would put those against the Islanders, because the lifestyle of going to 2 different arenas and having to go to Brooklyn and having to go to Coliseum and having to practice somewhere else and being a pain in the ass, and all the other things that are in flux with the Islanders organization right now. And then we talk about, ability to win. Well, I mean, if you look at any of the other teams that pitched him, they all have a better shot, I would say, than the Islanders. Name one of those teams that's worse off than the Islanders right now.
Possibly the Stars.
Maybe. And the Stars still have Sagan and
They're
a few
okay.
other players.
They're okay.
Jamie Benn.
Jamie Benn.
Jamie Benn.
That was the name I was trying to think of. I almost said James Neal. I'm like, no, they don't have James Neal.
They're getting the choo-choo train back.
Um,
Valerie Nichushkin.
that's right. So,
Jonathan Chichu.
no.
No.
They're not getting the choo-choo train. The choo-choo
So-
train.
Sorry. I should call Nichushkin the choo-choo train because he's the second one. Retrospect.
Stop it.
I don't know. Did you see that
No.
this morning? And then
I don't know why.
It's awesome.
Stop it, Steve. Please stop.
Retrospect.
So, if
Choo
those,
train.
Retro backpacked.
if those are the things that he's really focused on, what he's got to look at is what, and I don't know about this about him, but I don't know. I'm not convinced the media is a big factor for him. I'm just not convinced.
No.
Because if he is a calm, cool, collected guy, he's not going to care when someone slams him in a newspaper or a blog.
Well, and he's been in the spotlight since he was 15 years old. This is John Tavares. People forget how incredibly highly touted he was in junior and how much he validated all the hype. He was an incredible 16-year-old in the Ontario Hockey League. He was incredible in his draft year. He's been incredible. He's never not been incredible. So there's always been attention on him. He's been in All-Star games. He's been at the Olympics. He's been at the World Juniors. This is regular for him. Mm-hmm. It's regular. Mm-hmm. I wanted to look up someone who, this is only a fraction of what Tavares is going through right now, but I love this line of thinking. Devontae Smith-Pelly says it wasn't worth it to sign for more money. He loves being part of a Caps team, says he wants to give it another run at a cup. And so he re-signed 1 year, $1 million. What could Devontae Smith-Pelly have gone out and got in the free market?
I got to think.
Had a good playoffs, had a really
two?
good Stanley Cup final. Yeah, he probably could have made another $500,000, $2 million, which sounds like not a huge difference, but it's double.
Well, if you've ever made
potentially.
$500,000 in your life, a year, which I never have, it would be it'd be super nice.
But I went back and looked at his career. And Devontae Smith-Pelly has not made a lot of money for an NHL player, and he's also rich. And was offered $1 million by the team that just won the Stanley Cup, and he helped them win it. He was a big part of them winning it. Why would he not take that deal? Mm-hmm. Why would he leave that team? So he went for the best situation for him. He didn't screw with Happy. He didn't put himself in a position where he might get bought out again. Well, I mean, they wouldn't buy him out on a one-year deal or whatever. But he was bought out, had to sign for less money. It was a move that could have ended up costing him money in the long run. Because of the buyout from the Devils, he's actually getting 1.25 this upcoming season. He went with Happy. He went with success. And I think that's what JT will do. And I mean, I want him to go to the Leafs, but like, is there a wrong decision he can make? I don't know.
Between San Jose and Toronto, I don't think so.
So we're ruling out New York.
I would question the motivation at that point. If everything I've read is true, it's about winning and it's about lifestyle. Neither of those things are available or better in New York than they are in San Jose or Toronto.
What if he signs the 8-year max deal?
Then it was about the money and about some loyalty too.
Well, and also the presentation better have been.
I bet it was good.
Here's how we're going to make the Islanders better.
Which and you know what?
If they re-sign him, they're not making them better. It's status quo, and he costs $6 more million, maybe more.
It's true.
A Jordan Eberle.
I think that. I think that he. I think rightly so is somewhat loyal to that organization, and really, I wonder. We always talk about players being loyal to organizations. I don't know if they're necessarily loyal to the organizations as much as they're loyal to the fans. I feel like it's like
that's a good point.
You don't want to leave because you don't want to break all these people's hearts.
Yeah, and like the work you've done in the community and all the people you know and the sponsorship,
friends in the community. Like you've made your life there for 9 years. It's a long time. I get that. I totally understand that. If he resigns, I get it. However, here's an opportunity that for the rest of your life, and I will not quote the NHL player that said this, but an NHL player did say that if you, and this was at the Matt Sundin thing, but it wasn't Matt's that said this.
Okay.
If you play in Toronto and you have any type of success, you can make $500,000 signing autographs the rest of your life. That's the kind of popularity you have here. And it's not necessarily like John Tavares is going to need $500,000 the rest of his life after making $100 million.
The player was actually Ilya Bryzgalov.
Wow.
Yes, he would know, having so much success here.
You don't even have to win.
John Tavares here would be a god. And who cares who gets the captaincy? I mean, I know that was a question that was brought up. I think, you know what? Do you think that John Tavares, if he comes here, cares that it's Austin Matthews that's going to be the guy in the future?
Well, I don't know, Adam. It might not be John Tavares. It might be Austin Matthews, who's a little ticked off.
You're going to read that tweet?
According to one Jim Matheson. Did you see that? I didn't have it pulled up. It just seemed like the perfect transition to, my goodness, what are we going to talk about? I suppose we'll talk about John Tavares for 2 hours. It'd be nice if someone spiced it up and the Edmonton media was like, gotcha, fam.
Adam, do you want to explain?
As always, Old Faithful.
Adam, do you want to explain who Jim Matheson is?
Please explain, who is Jim Matheson?
Do you want to?
Do I want to explain?
Yes, because I don't have all the
Jim
details.
Matheson at NHL by Matty, who Steve, he's covered the Oilers since 1972, since they were a WHA team, a WHA team. WHA!
Wow.
Crazy. WHA, actually, not wow, WHA. And
Good one.
Thank you. See, I've had rest today. I haven't done anything else.
Right. Because you were unemployed.
That's
because
right.
You quit and they won't let you in the building.
Now, James Myrtle tweeted an article.
The Athletic.
It's James
allowed
Myrtle
to
at The
talk about
Athletic,
him.
and he said,
Adam's going to the Athletic.
Sim 5.
it's a Dom Lecision article, and he said, the Leafs are not on Boston or Tampa Bay's level, not yet anyway, but with Tavares, they would be.
Yep.
Now, that was the quote that he used to promote Dom Lecision's article, because James Myrtle is heavily invested professionally with The Athletic. Turns out he works there. Crazy, right? And he's promoting this article, and Jim Matheson retweets him. And you know what Jim Matheson says?
He quote tweets him.
Quote tweets him. He says, maybe I'm all wrong here.
That's a great start. I'm on board. I am listening.
We actually could have ended right there.
Oh, dude sitting back with popcorn.
Maybe I'm all wrong here. You are. But if I'm Austin...
Oh, there's a but?
Yeah, remember, what comes before the but doesn't matter. But if I'm Austin Matthews, I'm a little ticked that the Leafs are going hard for John Tavares. Isn't Matthews supposed to be their number one guy?
Can you read that again?
Maybe I'm all wrong here. But if I'm Austin Matthews, I'm ticked. I'm a little ticked that the Leafs are going hard for John Tavares, a Canadian. I'm an American.
Wow.
Isn't Matthews supposed to be their number one guy? Now,
For some reason, just imagine Hulk Hogan's original music playing when Matthews was having that inner monologue. Just all fired up.
Jim
He's got John
Matheson.
Tavares' face on a punching bag. He's just going to town. Sorry, what were we saying?
The first response to Jim was, "You're wrong." And then Jim changes the argument because he responds, "Not sure how the Leafs can afford Tavares, Matthews, Nylander, Marner. They need at least two defensemen and one or two top guys other than their centerman." That is a different conversation.
At least two. Where did that come from?
But regardless, different conversation. It goes from Matthews being ticked to the Leafs not being able to afford him. And those are two different things. And right now, it doesn't matter because the Leafs can't afford him. Well, if Tampa can afford him, the Leafs can afford him.
You know, Jim, maybe you're wrong.
Now, I wrote back and I said, yes, I'm sure Matthews would be pissed. The same way Messier was super angry every time he won the Cup with Gretzky. And some chode reached out to me and was like, oh, yeah, now Matthews is Gretzky, whatever, bud. Nobody's making that comparison. The point is...
You did.
No,
you literally made the comparison.
All I said was
Matthews and Tavares
No, I didn't.
and Gretzky and Messier.
Did an Oilers fan take something the wrong way?
Give you a hard time?
Okay.
I just learned Jesse is an Oilers fan.
I just want to say...
I'm surrounded. I got a Habs fan on my left and an Oilers fan on my right.
Should I become an Oilers fan this season?
You should also start a blog. Yeah, you should become an Oilers fan for sure.
Fun. Might be fun.
Yeah, it might be. They'll become good just because. Friggin'
I would never.
I just want to say that Damian Cox even retweeted me.
He retweeted you.
Quote tweeted me.
What?
What did he say?
The Damian Cox?
The Damian Cox.
Wait a second.
How was this Damo spun?
We need like a breaking news thing. Was this Damo spun?
Well, because James Myrtle responded to. All right,
You can picture by the sound I just made. You can picture it spinning and then unspinning.
It's his head and it wraps up and then it goes
like the Batman.
We didn't make that graphic for the video.
James.
Come on, Tim and Sid, social media producer. I'm waiting on you. I need it.
James Myrtle
Damo spun.
responded to me and said,
No,
yeah.
what is
Hold on. Context. I'm telling the story. He's like, just like
John Tavares for 2 hours.
Just like Taze and Kane, Crosby Malkin. Like, that's what James said. And Damian Cox said to me, as McDavid was livid when the Oilers also signed Draisaitl.
Oh my God! World star! 6 months! 6 months! 6 months! That's crazy! That's crazy!
And he's right. And we were right. I think, here's the thing.
I have to say.
I think Maddie's... Sorry, you have to say.
I don't like the culture in 2018 of how we just pile on a guy who clearly just made a mistake.
What?
Do we have to keep adding on? Like, wasn't it enough that somebody told him he was wrong and then he changed the argument? Do we have to keep tweeting at him? Does Damian have to say that?
Oh, I think...
Like, I think we got the point and it's just piling on. Like,
See, Jesse's doing a thing where he's kidding.
No. No.
Tell me why it's okay to keep hammering at a guy who's clearly down. Like, Jim Matheson made a mistake by tweeting that.
Well, here's
and he
the
didn't delete it. He had the courage to not delete his
Jim
tweet.
Matheson doesn't.
And yet, you decided to go at him. Why? Because in 2018, that's the culture. If somebody makes a mistake, we just keep going at him.
And what if Jim Matheson signed another superstar to play with and back him up in these situations? He'd probably be a lot happier.
What if he'd had another superstar since 1972 in the Hua years?
Point proven. 6 months. 6 months. Demo spin.
All I'm saying.
We are going to get Damian Cox on 6 months. It's going to happen. It's going.
Please make that happen.
Why? Why can't we do it?
Okay.
What were we talking about?
So we're
This tweet.
No. Okay.
John
In all
Tavares.
seriousness, Jim, I understand what you're saying, but no.
maybe I'm wrong here. Yes.
Correct. You're right about that.
And here's the thing. I'm not going at Jim himself. I'm going at his opinion. It's a bad opinion. Or it's an opinion I strongly disagree
at
with.
somebody like that.
Oh, no, you're right. You know what? Everybody should just post their opinions. No one say anything.
Yeah, isn't that what Twitter's for?
No, exactly.
Or
Definitely.
when we sign up for Twitter, are we... What are you looking at?
Myself in the camera. Mind your business. Say what you were saying.
What were you going to say, Jesse? I know it's for you. Steve just shook you up. We could go at you all
over.
day and nothing would have shaken you up the way Steve just shook you up.
It's over. I'm done.
Anyway.
I'm not switching to that camera, so you're going to look like it.
Why? Fine.
So Steve's just going to be looking to the right? I like that. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Well, anyway,
I wish I could go across.
listen,
you have to look at both.
You've met Jim Matheson before.
I don't think so.
Haven't you? Didn't you say you've met? No?
I don't think
Oh,
so.
I thought you had. Okay,
No.
maybe it was just Mark Spector. I thought you'd met
I
most
met
of the
Mark
guys out
Spector.
west. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't met Jim. Okay.
I don't think so.
NHL by Matty, you've never met him?
I don't think so.
Okay. For some reason, I thought you had.
No, a couple guys out west. Spec, Bruce McCurdy, I think. All the Oilers Nation folks. I don't think I met Mr. Matty.
Okay. Speaking of
Mr. Matty, sorry.
Speaking of Sportsnet Spec, we have to talk about him in a second because something very interesting happened today. We are moving on from John Tavares.
No, we cannot move on until you explain how it affects
The Toronto Maple
the
Leafs.
Toronto Maple Leafs.
How what? His tweet?
Whatever it is. I don't know what it is.
Well,
Adam.
it's about JVR. That affects the Leafs.
That absolutely... Continue.
Thank you.
That absolutely affects the Leafs.
I know.
Current
We've
Leaf,
run out of opinions.
James Van Riemsdyk.
We've run out of things on John
We
Tavares.
can come up with more opinions.
Oh, Jesse. You seem to forget I can simply interrupt Adam. I have practiced. Yes, Adam?
According to several sources, New Jersey, New York, Boston are the main teams in on James Van Riemsdyk. And I was just hoping that it would be someone else.
New Jersey, New York, Boston? Boston would be so unfortunate.
Yeah.
I would be very unhappy with that.
New Jersey's an interesting one, though, because that's where he's from.
I think he'd be interested. I think he'd be interested.
New York is interesting because New York is supposed to be in the middle of a rebuild.
The Rangers? Yeah, but teams in the middle of a rebuild can offer a lot of money in free agency. And I'm not convinced the Rangers are going to suck.
Well, I'm not
just
either.
not.
Not the deals they've made.
I'm just not. They may not be a playoff team. The Metro's strong. But I really like their last trade deadline. And I think they have the cap space. I don't have it in front of me. But they signed JVR, another guy or two. I think they're fine.
They literally sent out a letter that said they're going to be in a
Rebuilding.
rebuild. It's crazy.
What is it? What's the saying, Adam?
I don't know.
Under promise, over deliver.
Oh.
What's the saying? What's the saying with absolutely nothing to go on, Adam? That's right. Under promise, over deliver. Not the mantra of this podcast. Under promise, under deliver. I expected nothing, and I'm still disappointed. The Steve Dangle podcast with your host, Steve Dangle, and his regretful friends, Adam Wilde and Jesse Blake. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Stuff it in your ears so you don't have to listen. Also, eat it. It's very tasty.
That's like saying, what did my great aunt always say?
What did she say?
I don't know.
See, you'd be more likely to know that.
No.
What did my great aunt always say about the Franco-Prussian War?
Right.
Takes one to know one.
They always said.
Well, it's a war, so
Shield.
it takes gun to no gun.
What?
No, sorry. Swing and a miss.
Steve Dangle, that's the end of the episode. Brought to you by Panago.
Leo Komarov could be gone to the Rangers as well. That was a report today.
That's an interesting one. And
That sort of makes sense because he's a great guy.
there it is. Yeah, when you're going through a rebuild, I do think there is some importance on having good people there. And also just like a jerk.
Yeah.
He's just a total jerk. You know what I was
He'll be
thinking?
a fan favorite there if he plays the way he plays.
Absolutely. He's a fan favorite here. Like, there's a lot of people I saw on Twitter today when that report came out. There were people who were screaming all year, put him on the fourth line, scratch him, take him out of the lineup. And then when they heard he was going to the Rangers, they're like, oh, but I like him. You know what tickled me pink is the idea of Matt Martin potentially going to the Islanders.
Was that a thing?
It's just been theorized for like over a month now. So if that comes to pass and Leo ends up a Ranger, Matt Martin going up against Leo Komarov, that could be interesting.
That'd be fun.
Could be very funny. Matt Martin, his whole job is to swat away guys like Leo Komarov.
Yeah,
And then they'll
absolutely.
be playing against each other.
Now-
That could be interesting.
Steve's been beating the Derek Ryan to the Leafs drum for a while. He really likes Derek Ryan.
Me?
Yeah, you have.
I just feel like he could be a cheap option at center, but like I'm not married to it. He's not the only good cheap center available.
He's going to Calgary. That's apparently the deal.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Now, the Athletic put out 7 unheralded free agents, and this is by Jonas Siegel, by the way, that could
Sportsnet had to.
I know. The Leafs could be interested in. One of them is a guy whose pick was actually traded away in the Mikhail Grabovski trade.
I know who it is.
Who is it?
Greg Paterin. Or Paterin. I think it's Paterin.
So he's 27 years
Patera.
old.
I think it's Ratupex. Sorry. Yes, Adam.
He's 27 years old, and he played his first full season in the NHL. Now, his Corsi's right around
crazy.
50, so people would not love this.
Well,
But he
what was it? Relative.
because he and Dan Hamhuis were playing the hard minutes for Ken Hitchcock. So every hard matchup
on the Stars.
that's who they got. So I thought that was very, very interesting. He's a right shooting guy, 27 years old, probably pretty cheap. And another guy that they brought up as a right shooting guy who had outstanding numbers and for some reason, almost like Michael Kempney, could not stay on the horrific Chicago blue line last year, and that's Cody Franzen.
That is interesting.
Like
and
Paterin kills penalties, Franzen does not. So that's key.
see, Kyle Dubas's time with the Toronto Maple Leafs and Cody Franzen's time overlapped.
They did.
And
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really liked that player.
Interesting.
Really liked that player.
Did Mike
Now, that was
Babcock's
also-
time and Cody? I don't think it did.
I don't think. No, I don't think so. Now, that was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play in the this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. Like, I'm excited for Dubas to find like bargain bin kind of guys,
Mm-hmm.
but like, is Cody Franzen solving a lot of problems for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
No.
No. Like, if they didn't have a guy like Connor Carrick there, I'd be like, yeah, totally, go for it. But like, they have
Connor Carrick.
bodies. The Leafs' problem is not bodies. I think they have guys who can fill out depth roles. It's the upper tier guys. Like, if you get a solid 3-4 right-hand shot, you get by. You're fine. That decor is fine. But to add another
5'6".
fringe guy to your lineup, they have tons of those. Maybe not on the right side. They got a couple. We don't know what Ozhiganov is. I'm not overly optimistic. But on the left, like, you got a ton. And they just re-signed Marincin. He can play the left and right. Like, get a game breaker, man. I don't know. That's tough for me because I do want them to sign the best players available. Where does he fit? Where does he fit? Like, is he going to be spending time on the Marlies? Really? I mean, Franzen, I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up in Europe. because he can make bank, but I don't think he's going to make it in the NHL, even if he's good enough to make the NHL. I don't know.
Here's another head-scratching trade. We had the Dougie Hamilton trade. Now we have the Sheary Hunwick trade for a conditional fourth. Buffalo gets Connor Sheary and Matt Hunwick. And specifically, they get their contracts. So Pittsburgh could re-sign Brian Rust. And now the reports...
And Riley Sheahan.
And Riley Sheahan.
Yep.
And the reports are, according to our boy Mark Madden...
Yeah. What's the report, Adam?
Report is that the Penguins locked up Jack Johnson, or will lock up Jack Johnson, to a 5-year, $15 million contract.
That's player, not singer, for all you bloggers out there. Wouldn't know a hockey player if it hit you in the ass. Is what you wouldn't know. Yes, Adam?
Jack Johnson.
You know, it's funny. I remember some of the first stuff I ever read about analytics, because what do you want to know? What do you want to know from that?
Who's good and who's not?
When there's this new thing, who are some of the players who I thought were bad and are good? And who are some of the players who I thought were good and are bad? And he was one of the first guys I read where they're like, actually, this player's terrible. Actually, this player's really not good. And they're about to lock him up, allegedly, to a 5-year deal, a half-decade deal. How old is he?
31.
He's older than us. And they're going to give him a half-decade deal at 3-point-something per? Okay.
What I don't understand about that deal, among many, many things, is why it had to be 5 years. Why does it have to be 5 years? Why can't it be 2 years? Can it be 3?
I'd love to know what the market on Jack Johnson was. It might have been really high. Dude, it might have been.
Yeah, no. It's just hilarious that NHL GMs seem to outdumb themselves every time.
Well, and people were like,
and Jim
it's
Rutherford's
Jim
not...
Rutherford. No, but remember we were like, Yzerman can do no wrong. Signs Dan Girardi. It's every GM's got one. They got one, and this has the potential to be one. Now, he's got a pretty sweet gig, potentially. Rushing the puck up the ice to the Pittsburgh's assortment of murderers. But there's other players who can do that, man, for cheaper. You can go out and get a guy who's better than Jack Johnson for half the price. Why didn't you do it?
The Riley Sheahan deal was $2.1 million for 1 year, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Nice deal. Nice deal. Like that. I don't mind Rust's deal. Jack Johnson, though, I don't know. And getting out from under... boy, they decided pretty quickly they didn't like that Hunwick deal, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's 2 years as well.
No, 2 more years of Hunwick. Yeah, they signed him to a 3-year deal.
It's funny.
We could have told you.
I saw one Sabres fan say, the Sabres just acquired their second best defenseman. And I'm like, okay.
Why would the Sabres agree to that trade?
I think they want to ice a hockey team. And Connor Sheary's good. He's a good player. He scored 20 goals last year.
Yeah, you can get Sheary for a fourth. Character guy who was a hero in the playoffs.
You have cap space. You need to ice a freaking team.
I think from this deal, we could kind of tell that Buffalo knows they're probably not going to be very good.
But again, like if I'm a Buffalo fan,
what are they going to do?
That's them trying. That's an attempt.
And it's a cheap try. It's great because all you're doing is taking on some salary and a conditional fourth that could become a third. Like that's it. That's pretty good.
The other thing with them is they're going to take a hard run at Carter Hutton, which is a Hail Mary full of grace sort of move. Because what if that's Scott Darling 2.0? What if that doesn't work out? You better have a backup plan there, literally. But honestly, I think I'm just looking around the Atlantic Division. If the Sens right the ship, which I don't know if we're getting to that.
Yeah, we're getting to it.
If the Sens right the ship, all of a sudden, like the Atlantic, like really improved over the past couple days. Detroit in particular, I think.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you,
They're
man.
still screwed,
I don't think
I
don't think Ottawa's right in the ship anytime soon.
Yeah.
No, but there's a they have a chance. They have a glimmer of hope. Oh, I'm not.
Atlantic.
Boston, Tampa.
In terms of new,
That hasn't changed.
in terms of new threats, Florida. But
Yeah.
that's it.
Sure.
I still think the Leafs are better. Florida's good. It's competitive.
Mm-hmm.
You're an injury and a bounce here or there away from being dead even, right?
Sure. As always.
As always.
What would, and just this is a total hypothetical. We know Ryan O'Reilly, it says we're saying 50-50 he gets traded now because going into the draft, it was like super close. But the two guys the Islanders wanted fell to them at 11 and 12, so the deal was scuttled. Montreal doesn't get Ryan O'Reilly. Now, what do you think is fair value? And then I'm going to give you what the reported fair value is.
Reported
or at least
fair
the value that they want, whether it's for...
what Buffalo wants for Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah. And this is, remember, after July 1st, money paid out is almost nothing because he has an enormous bonus to prevent him from being traded.
Similar thing to Lucic as well.
How much?
Cap hit
7.5.
Yeah.
Over till
ever
2023.
If you require
He's
him...
not a bad player, though. Like, this isn't Lucic, right?
No. This is a good contract.
2 years into Kanye's presidency.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a long
Fair
time.
enough.
You have to pay a $7.5 million signing bonus.
What are we uncomfortably laughing at the realistic possibility of that? I am.
Go ahead.
I'll take it over what we have. $7.5 million signing bonus due on July 1st. $7.5 million right there. He just doesn't like get a paycheck. He just gets $7.5 million.
I hope it's like in a suitcase.
Maybe.
Just gold bricks, like the final level of GTA.
What do you give for Ryan O'Reilly? Because I like the contract. I don't hate the contract. I like the player.
I want your best prospect. Don't give me any grief. You're giving me that player. A package of firsts and seconds, probably, and ideally a roster center, like a decent one. Like, okay,
what are your firsts and seconds? You can't just throw firsts and seconds.
Yeah, you're
What
right.
are you getting?
Your best prospect.
Best prospect.
A first. Ideally, a couple more picks. Let's not get too nitpicky there. And one or two roster players.
Wow.
That's
significant, dude.
Dude, it's Ryan O'Reilly. He's real good.
Well,
yeah, I mean, and you're going to be like, how about, and talk me down.
Well, here's what Pierre LeBrun is reporting it is.
Okay. Is it higher?
Lower. First round pick. Second round pick. You're right on both of those. And a very good prospect.
Buddy, that's not enough. That's not enough. What's a very good prospect?
I don't know.
The Leafs could have Ryan O'Reilly for a first, second, and let's say Rasmus Sandin?
I don't know if it'd be Rasmus Sandin. I would think it'd be Andreas Janssen.
I love Yanni, but...
I might do that. And here's the thing. Ryan O'Reilly is locked up to a deal that gets less and less in terms of percentage of cap eaten over the time. You've got him at 27 years old right now.
He's, I want to say he's Tavares' draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he is $5 or $6 million less than Tavares. And you already have Matthews and Kadri.
That's a thing, man. Could be there.
And here's the thing.
That's
there are
ridiculous
If you need a winger, there are wingers. You can sign a winger. You can't sign a centerman.
Yeah, about that. Like, I kind of feel like everyone's like, oh, the Leafs have all these wingers you can trade away. Like, I don't want to blow up the Leaf spot or anything, but like, if the winger you get is like the biggest part of the deal, you're a bit of a sucker. Like, you, maybe not a sucker, but you do kind of suck at your job. Like, that should be the easiest thing to replenish your team with. The easiest and the cheapest.
But Buffalo
and you could not do it.
Doesn't have any of that. So I can understand. But I give him that.
Stink.
I call him right now and I give him that. I go, here you go.
Oh, the Leafs?
If the second Tavares is out, I'm in.
A first, next year's second,
and
Janssen.
Yes. I give him that.
Next year's first, which is 20th at the absolute
lowest.
Worst.
Yeah. Highest.
Second, you don't even, who cares? That's Thomas Plekanec. You don't even think about it. And yeah, like what?
Janssen.
I don't know if Janssen, does Janssen count? Janssen, oh boy, I really like both those players, but it's Ryan O'Reilly.
And it's a centerman. And that's what matters. It's the center thing.
Oh, yeah.
Jesse, he's the best centerman.
Jesse.
He's the best face-off winner in the NHL.
Okay.
He is over 65%.
Babcock would never ask you for anything ever again if you gave him Ryan O'Reilly.
You take that $7.5 million until 2023 and you allocate it to something else. And you keep your first round pick and you keep your second round pick and you keep Andreas Janssen. is that not a better use of your assets?
Well, I mean, it depends on. That's a good question. I think that's a really good point. I think it depends on what you think you have in terms of what's coming up. Like
if they had a wicked center coming,
then I wouldn't do it. But they don't have anybody.
nah.
No, but all we need is a third line center. We have Matthews and Kadri.
No, you need a player who plays in the third line spot, but you want him to be better. For example, Derek Brassard is better
Sure.
than a third line center.
Ryan
but that's what he
O'Reilly
is in Pittsburgh.
on forward. Ryan O'Reilly is the guy that they didn't have in the playoffs last year. Ryan O'Reilly is the guy that if they had Ryan O'Reilly, that series is over in 5 or 6 games.
I
No,
would
if
love
they had
to
better
know.
defense
I honestly
with
think,
their forward core that's currently in place.
yeah, I mean, but then remember, you don't have JVR anymore. But I think that with Ryan O'Reilly, you are, I mean, it's just a different team. Like, it is just a much scarier team.
Yes.
Now,
But,
who
can
do you think
not
Babcock would rather have?
over who?
O'Reilly or Tavares?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm going to say
don't know,
Tavares. He's
man.
not no.
Yeah, I don't think
don't
that's
know.
a question. I don't think that's.
I'm
I don't
not
think
saying he's
Babcock's
right, but
that ridiculous.
I mean, it's not like Tavares is a defensive liability.
But, like,
they're
what's-
both great, man. They're both great. And Buffalo, I mean, there's less incentive to send them to a divisional rival. That strikes me as
Yeah.
dumb.
All right.
But
Shea Weber makes $7.8 million.
yes.
Would you take Shea Weber or Ryan O'Reilly?
Well, Shea Weber's like 30.
Ryan O'Reilly all day. Because
Yeah,
we're going to
Ryan
get him in
O'Reilly.
his prime.
Yeah.
He's 27.
No, but let's say just an equivalent contract for a defenseman. Would you not take that over Ryan
But
O'Reilly?
that's
no.
not available though. And to pay that price, it's that much more. That
pay-
contract is not available. That player is not available. And to pay
Well,
for
we don't know via trade.
Well, I mean, okay. So who are defensemen? Who are the better defensemen in the league that you could see moving?
Like Chris Tanev,
Dumba.
Eric Carlson. Matt Dumba. Jared Spurgeon was the other guy.
Drew Doughty has
Ryan Ellis,
already entered
maybe.
into talks with the Kings. So he's probably going to stay there. He always probably was.
I think he'll stay there, yeah. Honestly, though, like if you look at Stanley Cup winners, like we've seen teams do it with like a mediocre decor on paper. They're all kind of jacked up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think O'Reilly gives you that.
You
But
have-
dude, like, I mean, what that's shockingly low. I don't believe that. I just can't believe that. And I also can't believe. See, you threw in Andreas Janssen. There's no way. Like, it'd have to be Liljegren. And now we're having a bit of a different conversation.
I was just thinking most developed prospect. Liljegren is the top prospect. You're right.
You probably want a guy like. I would if I'm Buffalo, I'd take Kapanen instead for sure. But
Liljegren
I
and
still- I agree
Rasmus
all day.
Dahlin for the rest of our lives. We'd have to play them. Yikes! Remember,
See, I
whoever
wouldn't
goes, you have
do
to.
that.
You wouldn't do it.
No. I think I look at it as you have 4 assets that you're giving up for one guy who you're committed to forever. The money, the 7.5 every single year, the 2 draft picks who could turn out to be something, and then Liljegren. And I think those are 4 things for one guy when you have 2 guys up the middle and you just need to fill with a.
But the point is
a
not to
bridge
have
second line center.
That's the point. Is you don't want to have a bridge second line center. You want to have a guy that is a top line guy in that role. If there's
No, but I just think you have
role to
other
piss
problems.
assets away on, that's the role.
I just think you have other problems you need to solve.
I don't think you can look at it as money though, like as adding that as a 4th thing. Because if Liljegren's, if we're gonna regret him being any good, or regret giving him up because he becomes good, he's then gonna cost money.
And then
Right?
if you had kept him, you have that money as well, and then you sign him.
I think we're getting
No, it
too
doesn't.
inside here, man.
Yeah, it's very inside.
I have to tell you, and then I'm not talking about. I feel like it's overthought. The point is, if you're going to spend major assets, Ryan O'Reilly is the guy you spend major assets on.
Yeah. Also,
100%.
if you're convinced, like, dude, that's a fringe 2nd round pick, the first. It's
And
like
a
where they
fringe,
got Sandin this
and
year.
a fringe third.
Yeah, basically. That's why I feel like that can't be. That can't
Well,
be.
maybe it's a bad team's first round pick, right? Because if it's a bad team's first round pick, it's high end, could be lottery, right?
Yeah, like wasn't Montreal trying to, or wasn't, no, Buffalo was trying to get the 3rd for him.
Yeah.
And Montreal said no.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm not looking at Ryan O'Reilly like a star like you guys are.
He's an Olympian. He is an all-star. He had a terrible season last year, but I think whatever team he goes to, that even if he stays with Buffalo, he's going to be a tremendous help. That guy's a force. He's scary. He's just on a terrible team.
I think he's
and he was also on the terrible Colorado Avalanche.
Wherever he goes, he's gonna be unreal. Wherever he goes, I think he's gonna have an unreal year.
So Mark Spector said,
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, and I might be, Mark Spector was talking about Milan Lucic.
Yes.
And the thought was yesterday in Edmonton that Lucic and the Oilers had kind of come to an agreement that he was going to stay.
Oh, I thought
That's what I woke up and I was watching Sportsnet and he was saying, hey, listen, like they it's not like they, they've come to a thing, they're a thing.
So,
but then today, you retweeted Andy Strickland. Andy Strickland is let me get his bio up. He is the rinkside reporter for Fox News Midwest. Basically does a lot of the Blues games and all the other Midwestern games. Some rumblings, the Oilers have a deal in place to move Lucic. We shall see. So what are we capping this at, guys? Do we think Lucic moves? Hard for me to believe.
Wait, you didn't read the report from his agent?
From Lucic's agent?
Yeah.
Is there a report from his agent?
Oh, I sent it to you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't have it all.
Jim Matheson.
NHL by Matty.
Yes. Talked to Lucic's agent.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Johansson?
Okay.
Jerry Johansson. And he said, Milan didn't ask for a trade, and Peter Chiarelli 100% has not come to us about moving Milan. He wants to get out from under the contract. He has to talk to us.
If he wants to.
Yes, if he wants to get out. What's going on with Milan? Absolutely nothing. Milan had a bad year. The team had a bad year. He's coming back to play for the Edmonton Oilers. That's not exactly a fancy storyline, but that's what it is. I have no idea how this story got out there. That's
if you're the agent, there's nothing in it for you to come out and say, the Oilers asked to trade my client. There's absolutely nothing in it. There's also nothing in it for you to say Milan asked for a trade out because he had a bad season and now he looks like a jerk.
I feel like the past couple of years in particular kind of ruined it for everybody, where I just don't believe you.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
And it's nothing against Lucic or his agent or the Oilers or anything. It's just, I don't know, it's a business. And part of that, when there's so much at stake, is you all turn into a bunch of dirty liars.
Yeah, and that's okay because you're protecting your client.
And also the truth changes.
Yes.
Bergevin didn't lie. He just simply hadn't been offered Shea Weber yet. And then when he was offered him, he's like, well, damn. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'll do that.
Yep.
So Jerry's a liar.
He's a dirty liar.
I think he's protecting his client is how
we got another thing from Frank Saravalli of the Evil Place. Sounds like the Blackhawks renewed efforts to move Marian Hossa's contract in the last few days. Hossa, 39 years old, has 3 years remaining at a $5.25 million.
3 years remaining.
$5.25 million in one of those backdiving deals, and league proved his medical condition worthy of LTIR exception this season. So basically, you just be paying the money.
He's going to be an Arizona Coyote.
Maybe. Possibly.
That's a lot of money, though, to pay for a place like Arizona. Like, it'd be one thing is if there was a bonus in there and Chicago had to pay it, or if the contract's insured.
Well, it's backdiving. So,
so you're not actually paying much.
Here, look him up on Cap Friendly, because I think his final 2 years are like $1 million or something.
Oh, so you're only paying $1 million.
Yeah,
which is still
it'd be
money.
similar. It'd be taking up that cap space, but they certainly have it. It'd be similar to the Datsuk thing, but Datsuk was $0. But he took up $7.5 million.
He just took up all the
cap space. That is ridiculous. It's pretty blatant cap circumvention. But as Leaf fans, none of us can talk, can we? Indeed.
So the cap hit over the last 3 years of Hossa's contract is $5.275 million against the cap. But he's only making $1 million, $1 million, and $1 million in actual money.
Remember when those were legal? What was the first year?
$7.9 million.
Wow. That's insane.
So yeah, whoever takes him on, you get 5.275 on your cap, but pay $1 million.
Ottawa.
Cash.
I was just thinking Ottawa makes a boatload of sense. A boatload
Boatload
of
of
cents.
cents, you might say.
Dollars and cents.
Nah.
You see.
Because you got, and you know who you give him? If Gabrick can play, throw it back at
Wow, that's an interesting
Gabrick on Chicago.
interesting idea.
Only if he can play.
Well, and Chicago's got to sweeten the pot.
Yeah. Or
Because you're
you know,
doing them a solid,
yeah.
not the other way around.
Jarmo Kekalainen is going to meet with Artemi Panarin in Europe next month. Not to beg the winger to re-sign, and this is according to Aaron Portzline of The Athletic. Not to beg the winger to re-sign, but to plot out a strategy for dealing with next season, possibly his last in Columbus, with minimal distractions. This would seem to suggest that Kekalainen is not expecting to trade Panarin this summer, but rather let him play into the final year of his current deal, which pays him $6 million a season. He adds that Kekalainen, if he got an acceptable offer, would take it. So far, all he's received are offers, including draft picks and top prospects, not players who would help buffer the loss of Panarin's offense in the lineup. So he doesn't see how he can get better right away, and he wants to be able to do that.
I mean, the Blue Jackets were up 2-0 on the eventual Stanley Cup champions. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
They were up 2-0 in overtime in Game 3.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
And they lost because I forget who the puck went in off his foot and it went into the net.
Yes, yes.
That's
Wow, that feels like ages ago.
yeah. A puck off of a guy's foot won Washington the Stanley Cup in overtime of Game 3 of the first round. There you go.
Fortunes,
Blow
man.
up the team.
How fortunes change. Can you look up? Can you look up the first round series from 2006 between the Hurricanes and Canadiens, and then can you also look up the first round series from 2011 between the Bruins and the Canadiens? Poor Montreal. They always seem to be on the receiving end of this because both those teams, both those Montreal teams, I should say, were up 2-0 on the eventual Stanley Cup champions in the first round and lost. Lost.
That is a fact.
What happened in Game 3?
In Game 3 versus Carolina in 2006, Montreal went to overtime. Tied 1-1, and they lost in the first overtime in the Bell Center. So they won the first 2 games on the road and went back home versus Carolina, who would go on to win the Stanley Cup, and it got to overtime, just like the Blue Jackets, and they lost.
How has that happened more than once?
What are the odds? And they ended up losing the series 4-2 when in Game 6, they lost in overtime as well to Carolina, 2-1. And then in...
they lost 4 straight games. Just like
No,
Columbus did,
they won one back.
Oh, they did?
Because... No, 4-2.
Yeah,
You're right, yeah.
yeah.
4 straight, yeah. Ridiculous. And once again, in 2011, they went up 2-0 versus Boston. And then in Game 3, 4-2. And then
okay.
Game 4, 5-4. Overtime, actually. So they had a Game 4 in overtime, 4-4, chance to go up 3-1 in the series. They blow it, lose 5-4.
What happened in Game 7?
Game 7 was overtime. 3-3 in overtime. They lose 4-3.
Wasn't Boston also overtime against Tampa in the third round? Oh, God.
It's luck, man.
Back when I had feelings for the Boston Bruins, like Canucks fans, I'm so sorry. But that team was fun. That team was a lot of fun. And then I promptly started hating them. Very promptly.
It was not overtime. It was just a 1-0 Game 7 win.
That's when Steven Stamkos got the puck in the fudge.
Did he?
He got the
I don't remember that.
puck right in the nose, and he came back with a cage and just looked haggard. He did not look good.
I think he's the reason they lost that series.
Stamkos?
Yeah.
Probably. What is it with star players with blonde hair getting pegged in the face?
Now can you do it in Seinfeld's voice?
What's the deal?
Michael Kempney, apparently just there's a report that he's re-signed with the Washington Capitals, a multi-year deal. And now that Brooks Orpik has been bought out by Colorado, it looks like he may go back to Washington as well at a cheap price.
Really? Oh, that's awkward.
Yeah, because
Hey guys.
well, you're double dipping, right? And he's got a contract that he gets paid 2/3 of it, and then you just make up the difference, right?
I mean,
Smart move.
I'm sure the Caps would like him. They want a cup.
So just pay me whatever it takes to get me back to the million. What would you lose? He had 1 year left at $5 million.
Oh, dude, like take a haircut. Like
So yeah, no. But if he loses 2/3 of that, or sorry, if he gains 2/3 of that and over 2 seasons, just a couple $1 million.
Can you look up Brooks Orpik's buyout history on Cap Friendly, because none of us are smart enough to figure that out. While we're looking that up, there was another little piece of news. I should throw this out. This is from John Vogel. Kim Pegula tells the Athletic Buffalo that growing women's hockey is important to the future of hockey overall, signing legendary goalie Shannon Szabados for the Buffalo Beauts. It's a huge move in the right direction. So cool. Shannon Szabados going to the Buffalo Beauts. That's crazy.
NWHL?
NWHL. Yes. Yes, NWHL, sorry. I keep forgetting. For some reason in my head, I've told myself that they've merged, and they have not.
No, they hate each other, which is a shame.
Yeah, but I think they'll ultimately figure that out. And Shannon Szabados is a move in the right direction. Mm-hmm. That's a name. That's a big name joining a team there.
Jesse,
and
what do we have?
Kim Pegula had a part in that.
For the 18-19 season, his base salary is $4.5 million. Is that what you like to know?
Woo! So he's got to make like league min or something like that
to make it back. Yeah, he'll be fine.
If you're the Caps, honestly, do it.
Take him. Take him.
Why not?
He's useful.
So is this cap hit of 5.5 going to count?
I don't know exactly how it... No, you're looking at the wrong thing. You're looking at... That's his contract. There you go. Wait, buyout history.
Oh, so the cost is 1.5, cap hit is 1.5. For Colorado, in the second year and the first year, it's going to cost them 2.5 against the cap and 1.5 in actual money.
Right. So, yeah. So it's 1.5
So he
per
gets
year.
$3 million total. So all he needs to get is $1.5 million, and he makes his money back.
Whatever he signs for, it's going to be plus $1.5 million times 2. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, it could make some sense for Washington to bring him back. I don't think he's the greatest player, but they won the cup with him. So maybe
And if he's a 6'7" guy, do you hate it?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Exactly.
Slava Voinov may not end up going to Montreal. The reports are saying that may have been overblown because Montreal would have actually had to make a trade with the Kings, who own his rights.
Yeah. How did that not become...
Nobody say anything?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Seems like a fairly large part of the story, doesn't it? How did that only come out, like, what, today? Yesterday?
Yeah.
That's
now,
crazy.
that doesn't mean that Montreal hasn't reached out or inquired.
Sure.
But they have
Doesn't
not
seem
talked to the Kings about a trade.
So it's sort of like the Kovalchuk situation.
Sort
where
of.
he wanted
Last
to come
year.
back.
Yeah.
Last year.
Right, yeah, sorry. He wanted to come back, but they would have had to get his rights from the
Couple
Devils.
more things before the press conference. Okay, so first thing, Rick Nash may retire. He's got history with concussions. You have to think he may have had one last year. If he's thinking now that he might want to retire, like that seems odd to me that like we heard nothing about this, and there must have been something last year, I would think, that prompted him to think this way.
And it was interesting seeing everyone go, come out of the woodwork and talk about how he's, such a great guy and he's one of the better guys in the sport. Because honestly, that's all I've ever heard. Like, it's funny. Like, a player's around long enough, you hear little stories here and there, like, so-and-so's a bit of a dick. My favorite one that I've heard very often is, I went to high school with so-and-so, and they were a bit of a prick. Oh, when they were a teenager, you don't say.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, come on. But no, not a bad thing to say about Rick Nash. Haven't heard it.
Okay.
Haven't heard it.
Possible that Melnyk was offered a deal for his team.
That's a big deal. And also, they tweeted that they got like $135 million in financing, which seems like something you maybe shouldn't tweet.
So he rejected a deal to potentially sell the franchise, but they have restructured and $135 million in debt. The Ottawa Senators are in a huge heap of financial trouble. Eugene Melnyk, even though he denied it today, he outright denied it.
Liar.
Has to sell this team.
Yep.
He has to sell this team. You've got tens of millions of dollars in debt.
What are you holding on to it for?
Yeah, what do you need this for? You don't need this. You were a Leafs fan. I see the Melnyk Pavilion on one of the hospitals here in Toronto. I know that you donated money. I know that this is financially sort of a disaster for him. And it doesn't make sense to me. You're hundreds of millions of dollars in debt with this franchise, with this particular asset of your business. Mm-hmm. What are the chances that Ottawa is going to make a financial turnaround so much so that you're going to pay those hundreds of millions of dollars off? Because not only do you have those hundreds of millions of dollars in debt, you're paying for that debt. You're paying interest on that debt.
business with Adam. Wow.
That is very, very expensive.
Is it? Yes, Jesse?
Oh, so there's a history of this debt, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he's been losing. This is from an article from 2013 about Melnyk and how much money he's losing in the Ottawa Citizen. So on average, he loses, I think it's $10 million per year. And at the time, he had been, prior to the lockout, he had been negotiating a new loan. So this was a previous loan, or maybe the current loan that was just renegotiated, of $130 million to cover the team's debt. Wow. And overall, in 2013, by the time he had signed, what year? So he owned the Senators since 2003, and then by 2012, he had lost a total of $94 million on his deal to buy the team.
Now, there are some owners who, like, they don't have the team to make money, necessarily.
They can lose money.
Yeah, they can lose money.
I don't
For
think
some
Tom-
of them, it's a tax write-off.
I don't think Tom Dundon's too worried about losing money in Carolina for the next little while.
And I think similarly, like, maybe the Pagulas in Buffalo, like,
And-
they've invested
and
a ton of money into
Winnipeg?
that, even though it's gone poorly. True North, absolutely.
They don't care. Because
Mel-
there's other benefits.
Yeah, Melnyk's one guy, and he's losing a lot of money. And also, no one likes him. Like, some people will have a team to be like, I want to bring a winner to this city. You ain't doing that, and no one likes you. They bought a billboard that said, get out. Now, I wonder if he could get the value of the franchise up by getting... I wonder if Karlsson could possibly say, I will re-sign with the team if you leave. Because the future of Erik Karlsson's NHL career has got to affect the price of this team. Mm-hmm. It has to. It's an all-world player. And I got to know, as a guy who might be buying this team, whether he's going to be there or not.
Well, I know if you are the guy buying the team still sucks. So I wonder how much that honestly, the team's going to suck. I mean, we know that. How much of a difference does it make? What I care about is what's the assets he can get me so I can turn this into a winner as soon as possible.
I think they're going to end up getting a new arena, and it's going to be downtown, and everything's going to be fine. And then he's going to sell the team with the arena.
Maybe you sell the team with the arena deal. So that way at least you don't have to pay. So you've got the deal in place, but you don't have to pay for the actual arena too.
You know, all this Ottawa stuff is very depressing. Mm-hmm. I feel like we could possibly get back to the Leafs.
Well, I'm trying to.
Oh, are you?
I'm actually trying to. Where did you want to go with the Leafs?
Well, I was looking up the Haley Wickenheiser stuff. Is that where you were going? With
No,
all
you
the,
go with
the
that.
staff news?
Please go with that.
So this is from noted friend of the show, Scott Wheeler. Haley Wickenheiser says she is interested in continuing talks with Dubas about potential role with the Leafs. They've chatted a few times, and he's open to new perspectives. So, Canadian hockey legend Haley Wickenheiser has been helping out with Leafs development camp. Who else has been there? I believe the head coach at the Kingston Frontenacs, whose name slips my mind. Ryan Clough, who's going to be the new head coach of the ECHL affiliate. Is it the Newfoundland Growlers or the St. John Growlers? I think it's the Newfoundland Growlers. Anyway.
The Elon Musk.
Wow. They're going to send an ECHL team to space because they can.
Uh-huh. Carry on.
Anyway, no, this is interesting because it sounds like there's discussions to not just bring Haley Wickenheiser in for this like one-off cool thing to help with development camp. Like she might have an actual role with the team. And I think that would be super duper cool.
Is Miss Wickenheiser still playing?
I don't think so. No, she finally hung him up.
She did?
I'm
sad I missed that.
After like a 90-year career.
Yeah.
I want to read something. I want to read something from Arthur Staple.
Oh boy, this just come out?
It's about Tavares. It was about 4 hours ago this came up, but somehow I missed it.
Because you're an idiot.
It gets into specifically, and I won't read the whole article, the goalie's going to market on Sunday. Carter Hutton, who the Isles have interest in, reportedly visited the Sabres and may be headed there on a 3-year deal. Cam Ward has been connected to the Hawks and Jonathan Bernier to the Red Wings. If those players are already ticketed, that leaves Peter Mrazek, Robin Lehner, Yaroslav Halak, and Kari Lehtinen as one-time number one goaltenders on the market. Perhaps this means that Lamoriello is looking at the trade route to find a goaltender. But that is your UFA goalie market for the Islanders.
And the Leafs have fielded calls on Garrett Sparks and Calvin Pickard because they should have. Do you want these guys who are basically all of them are coming off bad seasons, all the guys you mentioned, and they're going to cost you far too much money? Honestly, maybe double what they should be getting. Or do you want to take a chance on Pickard or Sparks? Your odds of success, I would argue, are just as high, but it'll be a fraction of the cost. Those are exactly the kind of guys you should be looking for in a trade, unless he wants to completely blow the doors off and get a guy like, wasn't it rumored that Lou really likes Corey Crawford?
Well, sure.
Could potentially go after him. Like, that was arguably his best move as Leafs GM, is going out and getting
Freddie Anderson.
Although he did give up quite a bit to get it. I don't know, man. I honestly, do you think the Leafs trade both? Nah. Right? They don't trade both Sparks.
Depends what you get.
Depends what you get.
I think Scott Wheeler was like not high on what Sparks' trade value was, and I wonder if that's changed. He's like, what does he get you, a fourth or a fifth? Well, maybe not anymore. Maybe not anymore.
Now it's a third.
No, maybe it's something else. It's part of a bigger deal.
More Leafs news, sorry. This is from Myrtle. Leafs promote Dave Morrison to Director of Player Personnel. Troy Bodie. Hey, remember that guy?
Yeah.
To Director of Pro Scouting. And Wes Clark, we already mentioned him, hired from Florida to be Director of Player Personnel.
Did we already read that?
Dave Morrison and Troy Bodie?
No, I don't think we did Troy
I don't think
Bodie.
we read the first part.
We did
I
Wells.
was looking for the tweet that said all the guys who left. But I couldn't find it. There were a whole big bunch. Or did we say them on the last show?
Mark Hunter.
Some of them we did.
Yeah.
We already kind of talked about
Who cares? They're not with the Leafs anymore.
Regardless, very interesting. I don't know how you sell John Tavares on not having a starting goalie.
Dude. Well,
But if Lou Lamoriello pulls it off, all the power to him.
I mean, all you can really sell him on if you're the Islanders, I think, are maybes.
Can you sell him on your reputation for being a winner?
But it's still a maybe.
Yeah.
It's still a promise of something. Whereas with the Leafs and with the Sharks, hey, come join our already awesome team and be scary with us. I'm sorry, Islanders fans. Like, I think this is an easy decision. Dude, he's rich. If it were about the money, he wouldn't have signed the deal that he did in the first place. I was listening to the radio the other day. I cannot remember the show, but basically Tavares didn't want his contract talks to drag out from the first one. And so he left money on the table because he's like, oh, I'm just going to be rich anyway. I want to say it was Frege.
Wow.
Yeah, he left money on the table because he's like, I just want to get it done. And when you think about it, if you're one guy and you're not like Jordan Belfort and trying to create a crazy business empire, you just happen to be extremely good at hockey. What really is the difference between $40 and $50 million? Or $55 and $60 million? It sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, but you are cartoonishly, Scrooge McDuckishly rich. Just go with what makes you happy.
I want to read another important tweet to you, then we get to the press conference, okay?
Okay.
Dave McCarthy.
I feel like we're reading tweets until we've covered everything, and we couldn't possibly.
Yeah.
No.
There's too much.
Dave McCarthy.
And we spent far too much time talking about Tavares. Thanks, Jesse.
I wanted to go further.
And by that, I mean not enough. You're right.
Here's another Tavares thing.
Oh, yes!
Dave A. McCarthy, who you should follow, he's a Toronto correspondent for NHL.com. He discussed the possibility of a player who could sign a big 7-year deal, but instead opting for a 1-year deal with Rob Wong on the Fan 590. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Hello, Rob.
And he referenced the possibility of said player protecting himself against loss of future earning in the event of a career-ending injury. As in, you buy insurance on yourself that will pay out if say you blew out your knee, you could never play again. You can buy insurance that you will pay, and essentially said by purchasing the insurance on projected future earnings. So you could say, I'm going to sign a $16 million deal, but I'm worth $11 million a season for the next 8 years after that. You can buy insurance based on that. Just spoke to an NHL player agent who confirmed that this can be done, though may be subject to limitations on amount of insurance available from underwriters. In other words, depending upon how much insurers are willing to cover, could his policy be taken out for $69 million, 7 years, $12 million?
Nice!
That's a nice number.
Or
Sorry.
1 year, $15 million. Or would insurers be able to cover, say, $50 million?
This is the sort of thing you say at the beginning of the show while I'm drinking the coffee.
The point is, if you're John Tavares and you do your 1 year max deal with the Leafs, let's say this is a thing that they do.
Just hypothetically, him.
Hypothetically,
I thought you
it's
had a
John-
player in mind. Okay.
John Tavares, 16 mil, what is it, 15.9? 15.9 is the max?
69.
15.9 is the max.
420.
You buy the insurance for 4 months because you play for 4 months, and then January 1st, you sign your extension, you drop the insurance.
What the? Weird. The NHL would absolutely...
That's not circumvention. That's legal.
But they will find a way to be like, you can't do that anymore.
Lockout.
Okay, but
Because
they
other
can't
owners
stop
and
us
GMs
now.
will cry and shit
They
themselves.
can't stop us now. We've done it. Can't stop us. We've done it. Once it's done, it's done.
Hey, you know what? You're right. The Blackhawks still have Duncan Keith at like $5 million. Screw them.
And
Go out and do it. Go out and do it.
and
Like the Leafs haven't
and the
been up to
Devils got their
shenanigans.
and the Devils got their first round pick back, even though they lost it over Kovalchuk. Come on.
You know what I think of every now and then? And this is vaguely related because of Leafs shenanigans. Like, I just have this visual of Josh Levo behind bars with like a little metal cup just going gring, 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 gring on the board.
No.
Like, what I hope Dubas trades
Can
the guy.
we not go to that? Who cares?
Why not?
Because who
I feel
cares? Why are we
bad.
talking about Josh Levo?
Adam, I work at home alone, and sometimes my mind wanders, and I think about
cares?
Josh Levo. Why won't someone think about Josh Levo?
Why don't you care about Josh Levo?
Why don't
We're
you
talking about Tavares.
care?
If I'm the
Why?
Leafs in that pitch meeting, I go, we pay your insurance too. All I'm saying is, if I'm the Leafs, I'll pay the insurance. I will pay the insurance if I'm the Leafs. Or
Yeah.
you bring an insurance company on and you say, hey guys, underwrite them.
What if 2 hours and 45 minutes into the Leafs' time with John Tavares, John looks across the long table in the dimly lit room and he says, what about Josh Levo? How do Leafs answer that question? It could have been the deciding factor. What if he really wants to play with Josh Levo?
Josh Levo does have a great shot. Johnny could set him up.
We found your new Anders Lee. Josh Levo. I'm telling you, man.
Are we doing a press conference today?
Nah.
Our next show is our final show
Ever.
for 2 weeks.
Wow. And that
We're
will be
going to do one show on Tuesday, which will be
post-free
the
agent frenzy.
3rd, because Sunday is the 1st. So that will be the 2nd and then the 3rd. And then we are not back until July 24th.
Wow.
Because that'll be 2 weeks.
That's a long time.
Did you have the Kempney thing?
Yeah, I said Michael Kempney's going to sign a
Oh,
multi-year deal.
never mind. Yes, you did. Sorry. Just making sure we have all the bases covered. Ruin the flow of the show.
All right. Well, everybody enjoy their free agent frenzy and happy
So-
Canada Day.
The next time we talk to you, listeners of the Steve Dangle podcast, Adam Wild, where will John Tavares be signed?
John Tavares
Let's be signed.
will be a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Is that what you think?
I'm saying John
By
Tavares is going to be
Tuesday.
a Leaf. I am putting it out there in the universe. I want John Tavares to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. John Tavares will be a Toronto Maple Leaf.
I think John Tavares will be a sand and paper, heart and soul player for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That's not even.
Did I say sand and paper?
Yeah.
You said
Sandpaper might have been good.
There wasn't even a.
Damn it.
What is a
Sand and
sand
paper.
and
Sand and paper.
Like when you're trying to do your homework on the
Heart
beach.
and soul paper.
I don't understand.
Leadership paper player for the end the show.
Jesse?
The coffee wore out.
Jesse, what do you think?
What do I think? About what?
John Tavares.
About who?
John Tavares. What do you think? Come on, give me an answer so we can wrap this up. Say it, Jesse.
Follow the guys Wes on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness.